Imagine waking up tomorrow in a world where every problem is already solved. Your food appears automatically, your home is secure, you have never had to worry about any money, survival, or danger again. Almost like a dream, but one scientist spent years testing a version of that dream. And the result was so unsettling that people are still arguing about it decades later. 8 mice were placed into a perfect world. 4 males, 4 females. They had unlimited food, unlimited water, no predators, no disease, no threats of any kind. Everything a species could ever want. But 5 years later, every single one of them was dead. Not from starvation, not from illness, not from lack of resources. So what happened? And why do some people believe this experiment predicted the future of human society? To answer that question, we need to go back to 1968. An American scientist named John Calhoun had been obsessed with one single question. What happens when survival is no longer necessary? Most animals spend their lives solving problems, finding food, avoiding danger, competing for territory, raising their young. But what if all these problems disappeared? Would life become better, or would something unexpected happen? Calhoun decided to find out, so he built what many called a paradise for mice. The enclosure had everything they could possibly need: fresh food, fresh water, comfortable temperatures, clean living conditions, no predators, no disease, no natural disasters, no competition for resources. If there was ever a place where a society should thrive, this was it. And at first, that's exactly what happened. The mice reproduced rapidly, population grew, then it grew even faster. Everything appeared to be working perfectly, but hidden beneath the surface, a problem was beginning to form. The colony became more crowded, not crowded enough to run out of space, not crowded enough to run out of food, but crowded enough to change how the mice started interacting with one another. And that's when things started getting strange. Some mice became unusually aggressive. Fights broke out more often. Others reacted in the opposite way. Instead of fighting, they withdrew completely. They isolated themselves from the colony. They stopped interacting, stopped competing, stopped participating. The social structure that had allowed the colony to grow began to collapse. But the strangest part was still ahead. A group emerged that Calhoun later called the beautiful ones. These mice looked healthy, their fur was clean, their bodies were unharmed. They spent most of their time eating, sleeping, and grooming themselves. At first glance, they appeared to be the most successful mice in the entire experiment. But there was a problem. They had completely lost interest in life beyond their own comfort. They didn't defend territory, they didn't court mates, they didn't raise families, they didn't contribute to the colony. They simply existed day after day, comfortable, safe, and completely disconnected. As more mice adopted similar behaviors, the birth rate began to fall. Mothers stopped carrying their young, many newborns didn't survive. Social bonds disappeared. The colony stopped replacing itself. And once that happened, there was no recovery. The population slowly aged, fewer births, more deaths, until eventually the colony entered a final decline. Then one day, the last mouse died. The paradise remained, the food remained, the water remained. Everything that mice needed to survive was still there, but the society itself was gone. Now it's important to understand something. This experiment doesn't prove that humans are destined for the same outcome. Mice are not people. Human societies are far more complex, but that's not why people still talk about Universe 25 today. They talk about it because of the question it raises. What happens when comfort becomes the highest goal? What happens when challenge disappears? What happens when a society loses its sense of purpose? For most of human society, survival required effort. People built, created, explored, protected, struggled, and through those struggles, they found meaning. The lesson that many people take from Universe 25 isn't that comfort is bad. It's that purpose matters, challenge matters, responsibility matters. Because a life with no problems sounds like paradise. But if the mice taught us anything, it's that a society can have everything it needs to survive and still lose the reason it wants to.